Welcome back to another episode of Right Here in Mass. Joining me today is Phil Toussaint, the founder of Ecopreneur, which is an EdTech company that helps schools and students manage, track, and fulfill community service hours. A Stonehill College graduate from the class of 2019, Phil's professional journey began at the age of 19 in sales and marketing, where he developed a deep passion for these fields. Outside of work, he enjoys being outdoors, volunteering, hitting the gym, and watching movies. Phil, welcome to the show.
Hey Ashley, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yes, I'm excited to have you here, my fellow Stonehill grad. For our listeners, Phil and I went to college together, and so we chatted a few months ago, and it's very full circle, I feel like, to be in school together, be in classes together, and now be on entrepreneurial journeys together. So I think it's going to be a really exciting episode as we have Phil share everything that he's doing in his life and business.
Absolutely. I know. I'm so excited. It's always full circle moments. I love reconnecting and seeing where we came from and where we are now. So I'm excited to chat about that.
Yeah, me too.
Mhm.
How about we start there with you sharing more about yourself, what you do at Ecopreneur, and how you got started with building it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I started Ecopreneur way back in 2019, right on the grounds at Stonehill College. And, I was really starting it off very differently. We were a media platform at the time. We got into doing video content, and at the time it was myself and Connor Sosi, who also was a fellow Stonehill grad, and he did a double major in business and media, and that's how we kind of connected because I was a double major in business and environmental. So we came together and we ended up, ideating around the whole concept of ecopreneur. Kind of think of it as like Entrepreneur Magazine, but like kind of the media outlet that they have and everything. That's essentially what we were envisioning with Ecopreneur. So we ended up starting from that, and we ended up building a YouTube channel around it, doing interview style kind of video content around sustainability and people within sustainability. So whether it was innovators, entrepreneurs, researchers, farmers, like the whole nine yards, we ended up kind of going around and just interviewing a bunch of people, and it was a good time. We did that for about like roughly a year, and then the pandemic hit, and we ended up having to like halt all of that. And fast forward, we ended up pivoting. He had moved out to LA to kind of pursue his directing and film career. And I wanted to pivot Ecopreneur to be a little bit more impactful in the way of like allowing for people to take action, really go down that path. And that's where we ended up getting into volunteerism and community service. And that's where the journey began on the tech side of things with the company. So we pivoted at that point. And then the tech journey began. Came across a couple of founders here in the greater Boston area that were tech founders themselves. And, they ended up showing me the ropes of the industry and like how it all works and how to build tech from, doing it to knowing the kind of sayings and everything like that. And I ended up finding myself immersed in it, and I loved it. And I never looked back since. So ended up fast forwarding. Here we are now today, building kind of really just the tech platform itself and getting into that.
Yeah, and I think it's so exciting to think about how things have changed since then, especially like you mentioned, becoming that tech platform and being able to learn about how to build it and learning the ropes and whatnot. And so I'm curious to hear, like looking back, did you ever expect yourself to get into tech? Like, did you ever expect yourself to focus on like what you've been focusing on, or like what has that been like?
Yeah, no, not at all. It was definitely a new thing for me. Tech, I knew nothing about. It was one of those things that kind of just happened across accidentally, as they say. And, it was really just a luck of the draw at that point. I remember when I met these founders, they're Haitian like myself, and they were really just building awesome, awesome platforms. And, they were telling me, I remember the first meeting I had with both of them. We used to go to kind of an office in Norwood that
Yeah.
one of them had, and it
Oh,
was really cool. And we would sit down for like 5, 6 hours just brainstorming, building, trying to overcome hurdles that they were dealing with at the time. And then they turned to me and they're asking me, what do you want to build? Do you want to build just a lifestyle brand, or do you want to try to go and build like a $1 billion kind of company?
mhm.
And I sat for that with that for a minute, and then I kind of turned to them. I was like, I really do want to build a billion-dollar company. I think I'm called for that.
Mhm.
And they were like, okay, well, you got a lot of work to do. And we started getting into it. And religiously for like a year, I was just joining calls with them. I think we had set up a cadence every week it was like every Tuesday. We would meet at like 2 or 3 o'clock, something like that. And we chat till like 6, 7, 8 sometimes. Like it was just like hours and hours of us just chatting, talking, me lending my kind of expertise that I had built at the time around marketing, and that's how you and I kind of connected originally.
Yeah.
And my prowess in digital marketing, kind of bringing that to the table from a young kind of Gen Z perspective. And these guys were older millennials, so they wanted to get my perspective when it came to their businesses, and that's how we started to kind of like converse. But then in tandem, they would help me, try to build my business, try to build Ecopreneur, and really just understanding like what can I build as a tech platform, essentially.
Mhm.
Took a lot of pivots, it took a lot of iterations, trying to figure out like what problems are we even solving in the first place. A lot of market research, lots of trial and error, but ended up getting to building the platform that we have today.
hmm And I think that's one of like there's so many things about you that I so admire. And I think one of them is when we chatted a few months ago, like this is what we talked about is how you've gone through all of these pivots and changes and rebranding and you just have so much like tenacity. And I think that being able to kind of roll with the punches ultimately. And so I'm curious to hear your perspective on that for anyone listening. Like, what advice would you have for them for just being able to go through all of those changes and still stay the course and not give up, if that makes sense?
Yeah, absolutely. It building anything, and as you know, Ashley, like building any business that you're trying to get into, whether it's a small mom and pop shop to a digital marketing agency to a tech platform, it's really going to take a lot of grit and just hard work. There's no secret sauce to it. A lot of people will try to, still sell you, ironically, to this day, like that there's like a way to do it, but there really isn't. Everybody has their own story. Everybody has their own way of building. It's just a matter of figuring out like what are you passionate about? What kind of industry are you trying to get into? What problems are you looking to solve in general?
Hmm
Whether it's somebody that just, there's a town that doesn't have any ice cream shop, and you're looking to build that first ice cream shop and everybody loves ice cream, then hey, you're solving a problem. People want ice cream, right?
Yeah.
Um, and it's as simple as that. And I think at the end of the day, it really comes down to just having that willingness to keep going, the will to act on it, the will to just stay with the course and just keep fighting and trying to push and build. And with that mindset, inevitably you will win. And
hmm
that's really just what it comes down to. It's always as long as you stay the course, you don't give up, you surround yourself with the right people. It's the
hmm
most important thing that I've learned over the years. Then you're really set to succeed in whatever you set your mind to, essentially.
Yeah, I love that. And I especially love your point that you brought up about surrounding yourself with the right people because I remember hearing in class about like the importance of networking and I
Yeah.
remember just like not actually rolling my eyes, but like want to roll my eyes because I'm like this
Yeah.
sounds just so overplayed, but it's like once I got out of school and really started working even harder, I'm like they're onto something here when you talk about
Yeah.
like when you really surround yourself with the right group of people. And so I love that you really emphasize that because the people that you meet and connect with and collaborate with can help take your business really to the next level.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely. Yeah. I mean, today I had a call this morning with one of my advisors for Ecopreneur, and he introduced me to somebody else that we're going to be looking to bring on as our sixth advisor on our board. And, I reflect and I look back, and it's moments like that where I'm like, I'm really thankful that I've been able to build, the team around me that I have, from the advisors to my executive team to the contractors that we work with. Truly, like without them, I wouldn't be able to, execute or have the right direction. I remember in the past when I was first starting in tech, I was running in circles because I didn't even know where to start, honestly. But then
Hmm.
the moment I started to be able to surround myself with the right people, and then I ended up getting Jared Salwa, who's also a Stonehill grad, now my co-founder of the tech company. And him and I coming together and just being able to have him support me in the right ways and say, hey, we need to build a team. He pushed me out of my comfort zone and was like, hey, we need to build a team so we can start to really get this off the ground and going. And just having those words told to you and having the right people to kind of guide you and everything. And I'm just proud of the fact that I was, humble enough and I had enough humility to say, I don't know everything. I do need to surround myself with the right people. Like that's the most
Yes.
important thing in that way too. Yeah.
Yeah. And what you shared there reminds me of a quote, which I think is so true. And it's something along the lines of like, you never want to be the smartest person in the room. You always want to
No.
be in a room where everyone else is smarter than you. And
Yeah.
it's so true because that's how you
Yeah.
learn, that's how you grow, that's how you get better at what you do in your business.
100%. Yeah. It's very, very true. And as cliche as it sounds, it's so important. I've been in rooms where I was definitely not the smartest. I went to a networking event right when I came back from New Jersey. I was living there the past 4 years. Just coming back up to Boston, I went to a networking event and I met all these amazing entrepreneurs that were just killing it in different fields, different aspects of life. And just being able to surround yourself with that wisdom and kind of knowledge and just absorbing it like a sponge and just being able to, be present and just listen
Hmm.
more than you talk is everything, especially when you're a younger kind of entrepreneur like us. Just being able to listen from your peers and just learn from them. It's really gone a long way for me and saved me a lot of mistakes. I've still made a crap load of mistakes, but I've definitely saved myself from many more that would have happened if I didn't surround myself with that wisdom and kind of foresight.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And on the topic of surrounding ourselves with good people, I know you mentioned that you have a co-founder, Jared. And
Yes.
so I always enjoy speaking with podcast guests who do have co-founders. I think it's so interesting to hear that perspective on being all in
Yeah.
with someone else. And so I'm curious to hear how you knew you wanted a co-founder, like how you knew Jared was the right fit, and also how you know that you work well together.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. So, it's funny. Jared and I, we were friends long before we got into business together. Um, we were both commuters at Stonehill. I came in sophomore year. He came in as a freshman because he was supposed to graduate 2019 like us, but ended up having his credits transfer and things. But he was a commuter. He came in one day. And then we ended up just kind of chatting. We clicked initially really well. And then I remember another day I had come into the commuter lounge and I was starting to build my entrepreneurial journey at that point. It was like 2018. And I was reading Millionaire Success Habits by Dean Graziosi. And I love that book. Basically, the theme of that book is it talks about, uh, asking yourself the question why
Hmm.
and asking yourself that question 7 times. And the whole point of it is to get to the core of what your true why is. Kind of like the
Mm.
exercise that Simon Sinek talks about with his book, Start With Why. It's kind of the same. It's basically the same thing. So I remember going through that exercise and really just finding my why and really getting to the core of it. And Jared had come in and he was asking me, "Oh, what book are you reading?" I told him about it, and then I was like, "You know what? I kind of want to have some fun here. We're gonna do this right now. I want to ask you why 7 times." And we went through the exercise together. After about like 45 minutes of us just talking it out and getting to the core, he ended up just bawling out crying.
Oh my
And
gosh.
he got like really emotional and like and that's when I knew like that's the point of the exercise is for you to know your true why to the point of like what drives you every day, what wakes you up every day, what
Hmm.
motivates you to do what you're doing in life. What's your true purpose, your true meaning of the value that you can bring to life. And when he was crying, we shared that bonding moment together. And at that moment, him and I just both knew and we kind of talked about it. We were like, yeah, I think we want to, one, not only be friends for life and brothers for life, but two, let's build something together. I want to collaborate with you because you're truly somebody that I can build with, and you have the same mindset as me, and the rest is history.
Yeah.
And that's where it all began. That's really where it all started. The foundation of our friendship years later, as I mentioned, I moved to Jersey. That was back in 2021. Soon, kind of still a little bit during the pandemic, but after the core of it. And I ended up, starting to build Ecopreneur even more. At that point, I started to also get a 9 to 5 because I wanted to build myself as a leader and build my connections within corporate America. So I was working kind of some nice jobs out in New York. I was doing that, but while simultaneously kind of like what we call moonlighting in the
Hmm.
entrepreneurial world, where you go to your 9 to 5 and then your 6 to midnight is your side gig or whatever it is. So I was doing that, and I remember I had gotten into a program for Ecopreneur that was able to get us a bunch of grants, and then that's when I kind of went to Jared and I said, hey, I really need a co-founder with the pivot that we've done with Ecopreneur. Um, do you want to be my official co-founder for the company? And then it ended up happening. He was like, I was waiting for you to come to me with
He's like,
this. He
about
was,
time, Phil.
yeah, literally. He was like, dude, you've been like tossing this around for forever. And I was waiting for you to say something. And I was like, yeah, I know. So we ended up happening, and now we've been partners since. I would never have it any other way. Like he's been amazing and truly, truly. I always like to say the Superman to my Batman. So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, I love that. And I know that like a lot of people say don't go into business with friends. And I'm speculating since I obviously don't have a co-founder, but I feel like
Mm,
friends can be the best co-founder because you know each other so well, inside and out.
yes,
You can anticipate what their strengths and weaknesses are, and
for
vice
sure.
versa, they can anticipate yours. And so I think that kind of removes any tension because like you have that close bond before your
Yeah.
business partners. And so of course, you and Jared are a success story of that, of being able to take your personal relationship and make a business relationship out of it.
Absolutely, yeah. It's not without doing your due diligence. You gotta. What I love is being friends allowed for us to be able to have the tough conversations
Hmm.
that I feel like a lot of co-founders steer away from because they're afraid to face that.
Yeah.
I've seen nightmare stories of like technical co-founders or CEOs or whatever it is, like leaving the company because it's just like they had a falling out and
Hmm.
they didn't have those tough conversations when it mattered. And then it can be further a nightmare for not only your team, but also investors that may have put money in or
Hmm.
like clients that you have, things like that. And that energy can be felt throughout. It's not just within the organization, like especially if you're already externally working with others, it really can become a problem in the way that you're servicing them and taking care of them. So with that being said, for me, it was just as important for us to be able to have those tough conversations, try to put things on paper, have those
Hmm.
agreements in place. But it was just that much easier because we were friends
Yeah.
and we were able to come together and say, let's be mature about this. Let's just
Hmm.
talk it out. And we did that. We did just that. And like what I love about Jared is he's a very mature individual the way I am. So like he's able to kind of like really just sit down and say, okay, let's have this tough conversation. It's gonna suck right now,
Hmm.
but it's going to pay off, months down the road because we've had this conversation, we talked it out, and we were able to now fix our operations, fix the sales process, or whatever it is. So yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Absolutely. And I think that's great that you had that agreement in place because that protects both of you if something were to
yes,
happen and then it's just smooth sailing from there so you can
yeah,
operate as needed. But I
exactly,
think that that's really helpful too. And so in addition to having like a co-founder, one of the things that I'm also really curious to hear about is how you work with schools. Because I've chatted with so
yeah,
many business owners who like schools are their target audience, but they're like, I just can't get my foot in the door because it's like I
mm,
just can't find the connections at the schools, or
yeah,
they just can't really get the schools to ultimately give them the time of day. And so I'm
right,
curious to
yeah,
hear how you've been able to do that, of just being able to kind of get
yeah.
your foot in and be able to support these organizations and communities.
Yeah, it's not without difficulty, Ashley. I'll say that. Education is a tough industry, man.
Yeah.
You really got to put a lot of work into it. I was actually just talking about that with somebody last night, and I was like, man, it sucks. Like, but I love it. It's a nice challenge.
It's the thrill of the pursuit.
It is exactly the chase, especially with my sales background, I just love it. But I would say, to that, just getting your foot in the door. What I've always found, at least in my career so far, is the old school is now kind of the new school, which
Mm,
is I find interesting. Old ways of doing things that people don't do anymore because of our digital era, like walking into a school and just like shaking hands and like smiling and being present and being like, "Hey, I'm here to meet with the principal," goes such a long way compared to just an email.
yeah.
Um, I found that to be very, very effective. Just doing little things like that. I've actually, one of my advisors, and again, this is going back to my point of having the right people around you. Just about at this point, I think a year ago, I remember we were chatting and he was telling me, you should plan to go do some school visits. And he was talking about a story of when he had founded a couple companies and was in tech at a younger age, around our age. What he had done was he would go and buy cookies at like a Stop and Shop or something, and then he would just go deliver cookies to whoever he was trying to sell to.
Hmm.
And in some cases, he would even have like custom made cakes made. Um,
Wow.
and he would literally just like have this whole like the company logo on it, things like that. He would deliver it and he would go to like the front office and say like, hey, I have this delivery for so and so. I can drop it off here. You could just let them know. And then he would leave his information. He was able to close accounts because of that.
Oh,
And
interesting.
yeah, yeah, and people that really just took him seriously because of the fact that he did that. And he had suggested that for me and Jared to kind of experiment on. He was like, "Hey, you guys should think about doing this." So then, I put some gas in my car, drove around, and got picked up a bunch of cookies. I actually have another Stonehill connection of ours, Claudia Curo. She's a baker, so she'll make like a bunch of pastries and whatever. I hit her up. I was like, hey, because she'll also help us a little bit with some marketing, she's graphic design background. And, she basically, I hit her up. I was like, hey, we're thinking about doing this. Could you help us, put together cookies and things? And she was like, heck yeah. So I remember last year, what I ended up doing was having her put together Ecopreneur logo cookies. And we just
Fun.
went over, we went around to a bunch of different schools and we dropped off cookies. And that's how we were able to continue the relationships, get meetings, and even to the point of us being able to, close schools and things like that. So right now we're, the one of the accounts that we're working on. So Westwood High School, the first school that we brought on to the platform so far, that wasn't through us doing a visit, but it was a really good kind of experience in general, just me being able to be in person, do the in-person presentations. There's other methods of being able to do that. So I would say like old school's the new school, like getting in front of people, giving them a call, dropping off things for them, even though they may not expect it. Like little things like that go such a long way. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
love that phrase, old school is the new school. I think it's so true. I mean, people love little touches that don't take much, but that make a big impact. Like I love writing handwritten thank you notes. I think those
yeah,
are a lot of fun, and people always love getting
exactly.
snail mail that aren't bills. So being able to do stuff like that is really cool. And I love the idea of the cookies, especially to have it
Yeah,
branded. I'm curious
yeah,
to hear, because just from speaking with other business owners and what they struggle with kind of this like outreach, so to say, is they don't know if they should just like show up or if they should have like an initial outreach first and then maybe have that follow-up in-person visit, if that makes sense. Like I'm curious to hear the approach you took, and maybe it was a mix of both
yeah.
depending on the school.
Yeah, at least for me in my experience, it depends on the school,
Hmm.
particularly. So like how we got Westwood was actually through email marketing. So we did some kind of like B2B old school email marketing. We automated it, but we made it personalized enough to appeal to them. Um, it's funny when we were starting off building the platform a year and a half ago, we did a bunch of market research like towards the end of 2023. We were basically just blasting out emails to administrators across the country and just
Hmm.
saying, hey, we're thinking about building this. We want to learn more from you guys. Like, what are the pain points you're dealing with? What are the common themes?
Hmm.
So what we started to do is just have conversations before we even built anything, before we coded even our first thing. Like we said, let's sit down, let's think about what is the problem that we're actually trying to solve here. So we ended up having about 15 plus conversations, ended up giving us a lot of good learnings. common themes that we were able to pick up. And then at that point, we utilized that and we said, okay, based on what they said, let's break it down further. XYZ is what we need to build. Cool. Now we can send that off to the dev team, design team, have them, go in and iterate and build and begin the process at that point.
Hmm.
So, for me, it started off with conversations that led to just, nurturing and rapport over time. Then that led to follow-up emails, updates, and then just being able to kind of go from there. In other instances, I've seen just calling directly made such a difference because they were too busy. So many emails are coming their way. They don't have the time to take a look. Administrators are, running around like chicken with its head cut off. And like it's literally just being able to do the personal touch of like, hey, I wanted to give you a call just to check in, see how things are going, and then bam, we're able to have our conversation right there.
Yeah.
Um, and so it really ebbs and flows depending on the school and how they operate, because especially with private schools, they typically can be kind of different, when comparing all of them,
Hmm.
especially state by state. Some may be more like kind of laid back and others might be just kind of all over the place. So like it really
Yeah.
depends. You just have to kind of feel it out and go for it. So
Yeah, that's great advice. And you kind of alluded to it in your response, but it's a great reminder that sales is a long-term cycle and ongoing. I
yes.
mean, you mentioned that too with like the multiple touch points that you gave to every school and different types of touch points, whether it's an email or the visits that you did or even the phone calls. And so
Yeah,
that's a really good reminder for our listeners here who are kind of chasing leads or chasing potential clients or customers
absolutely.
or users, is that it will take some time.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, it's so important to keep that in mind. Patience is key. I've been able to close clients in the past, even when I was not doing EdTech now. At one point, I kind of had my own marketing agency, and when we were closing clients back then, uh, the best accounts that I was able to close were just from, the personal touch points and even just like things like LinkedIn and being able to connect with people. Multiple touch points are key for sure. It's so important to make sure that you're able to kind of be everywhere all the time, but not too much to the point where you're not pestering them.
Right. Yes.
It's the fine balance. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One thing that you mentioned earlier that I'd love to go back to because I know it's really relevant for our listeners is the idea of moonlighting. And I love that phrase that you
Mm,
used, but I know that a lot of our listeners are in that position that you are in right now, which
yeah.
is having a 9 to 5 during the day and then at night and weekends really being able to focus on their business. And
Yeah.
so I would love for you to share your experience of how you juggled both and then when you knew it was time to ditch the 9 to 5 and go all in on
Yeah.
Ecopreneur.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, when it comes to figuring out kind of that balance, it's really just a matter of being really, really kind of strict about your schedule and just trying to like figure out, okay, like this is the time I need to dedicate towards XYZ.
Hmm.
Um, your 9 to 5, it can stop at the 5, or it can even sometimes go. For me, it would always bleed over, always, because when you're in marketing and you're running ads for Fortune 500 companies, it's not going to stop. There's always
Right.
things that are going to come up. There's always, things that you have to stay up late for, because if you don't get it done, then you're going to be upsetting the client, things like that. So I found myself oftentimes having to work till midnight, 1 in the morning, because it was just so busy. So in instances like that, I kind of just let that happen and I just went with the flow of it. Because it was really out of my control. I still needed that 9 to 5 to be able to support myself financially. So at that point, I said, you know what, it's okay. Let's kind of put this on the back burner a little bit, but I still want to kind of push where I can. So like, even if I sacrificed weekends a little bit, to work on my side gig and build it up and things like that. That's what
Mhm.
I did. Um, I'm probably the worst person to ask this question because I have no life. And I literally like, especially when you're in tech, it's just like nonstop. But yeah, I would say like it's really just trying to find I don't want to say like work-life balance, but like more so work-life harmony.
I
And
love that.
in the sense of how do I work, but then, try to find joy in it, even though it may seem kind of daunting at the time.
Hmm.
Because you have to think about long term, like this is what's going to support XYZ for me to be able to invest in this and do that.
Yep.
Um, if you could find work that fulfills you, it's even better. But that's not the case
Mhm.
for most people, right? It wasn't fully the case for me eventually over time. Um, I pretty much ended up getting pushed out of the company that I was working at. I unfortunately got let go just because of a bureaucratic thing that went down. And nothing that was directly my fault or anything. It's just because I was the middle manager, it just happened to be that they needed to chop somebody's head off. And,
Just happened
unfortunately
to
it
be
was me.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it happens. That's a reality of life, right? So I've kind of found myself in a point right now where I'm kind of resetting. I'm like, okay, I had the 9 to 5 for a good number of years, for about 4 years. I was doing that consistently for a while I was moonlighting. But now, in a way, like the universe is telling me, oh, this is your time to go and pursue what you're meant to pursue. This is what you originally were trying to put your head into. Now you have to go back to it. And that's where I'm at right now. In some instances, you may decide, hey, I'm not feeling fulfilled anymore. I had a conversation over the weekend with a family member who was in a similar boat. And he was talking about he was a CFO for multiple companies and things like that for a while. He's 40 years old now, and he just started his own business a year ago, consulting with startups and companies, helping them with their finances and things like that. And I thought that was so awesome. I thought that was so badass because he was like, I'm now gonna say I need to stop because he started to feel like he was just losing himself.
Hmm.
He wasn't feeling fulfilled anymore. He became very robotic, um, and he just wasn't feeling human anymore. Like it really just
Yeah.
became a whole thing of just like wake up, do the work, go to bed, repeat all over again. And it got to the point where he was like, I need to go. And in moments like that, that's if you feel that and okay, this is something that I don't feel happy to do anymore, that's how you know, like it's time to probably go.
Hmm.
Uh, but I've also seen on the flip side people that are just super happy with their 9 to 5 and they're able to continuously do that while growing their business until they decide, hey, I'm ready to retire and now I can just do this full time. And that's totally fine too. So everybody kind of has their own journey. I really encourage people to just look inward and try to figure out like what is it that works for me personally.
Hmm.
Do I feel like I'm in a position to leave my 9 to 5, or if I'm not, maybe change it a little bit, think about an adjacent career path or whatever it may be, whatever that may look like. It's really just start with internally kind of like analyzing yourself and then go from there.
Yeah, so many good things you mentioned there that I really want to repeat because they were really good. And one of them being at the start, you mentioned like not having a work-life balance, but work-life harmony. And I love
Mm,
that phrase because I feel like I've said to myself so many times, like there's never going to be a perfect balance. Like depending
no.
on the season of the life that you're in, or even the time of year, like you might give a lot more of your attention to your business and less to your personal life, or on the opposite
Yes.
end you might give a lot more attention to your personal life and less to your business. And it depends on
Mhm.
so many circumstances. So I love
Yeah,
that you just kind of reiterated that it's never going to be 50-50, and that's okay.
yeah,
But I also love that you shared the point about being able to find like the joy and the happiness in the work that you do because it totally makes a difference. And it's
oh,
like
for sure.
I've
Yeah.
tried to be more mindful of that when I'm doing a task that's daunting. I have to really
Mm,
reframe my mindset around it, and it helps. And so I think that's a really good point that you bring up is just like finding joy, focusing on that work-life harmony, and then really being able to understand your why and make sure that, like you said, it all feels good internally.
absolutely. Yeah, it's so important. And like, one thing I also learned the hard way, now, if you look at like my social media, especially on my Instagram, I'm very active as a person. I like to take care of my body and go to the gym and do kind of activities like archery and like I have a bunch of different hobbies that I love doing.
Mhm.
Um, and that's something I had to learn over time because there's also like the toxic side of it where you throw yourself too much into your work, where you neglect your temple, yourself,
Yeah.
right? And like a lot of people end up doing that, and it's unfortunate. And I was one of those people where I was in front of my screen 24/7, like just blue light hitting my eyes, like going crazy, and like staying up way too late. And I started my health wise, I was just down in the dumps, like deteriorating.
Yeah.
Um, until one day, like, my family kind of noticed and they were like, "What's going on?" And I was like, because I came up to visit in Massachusetts and they were like, "Whoa, you look different." And that's when it hit me and I was like, "Oh my God, okay, I need to I need to start to figure out how am I gonna take care of myself primarily because um, that's the probably the biggest piece of advice I could give to anybody. If you're not taking care of yourself mentally, emotionally, physically first, how are you
Hmm.
gonna do anything else? How are you even gonna think about building a business, leading a team, doing sales, whatever that may look like? So, prioritize taking care of yourself and then you can give to the world. Then you can go out there and do what you're meant to do.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree. And same as you. I had been there before with like for me, as you probably see on Instagram, like I'm a runner. And so that's
Yeah,
one thing that I
yeah,
do every morning. And for
yeah.
probably, I'd say earlier on in my business, I n neglected that for like a year and I felt
Mhm.
it. And it really relates to the whole idea of you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yes.
And it seems counterintuitive to take your time for yourself and focus on that self-care, but it
Yeah.
really isn't because it helps you go so
Yep.
much further in life and in your business.
Yep. Absolutely. It's so important. And self-care is everything because it allows for you to really be your 100% self,
Hmm.
to allow for others to truly follow your lead and be able to be a leader in your own right because of the fact that you're living by example.
Yep.
You're exemplifying the way that somebody should respect themselves and take care of themselves for them to be able to serve others. So super important. I always emphasize that. That's something I've learned over the past 2 years. Being an entrepreneur now for multiple years since college, like yourself, it was something that I had to learn the hard way, and for me to wake up to, and I couldn't be happier with the fact that I was able to make that decision and prioritize my health above everything else, and then being able to go from there. And that's something that even like Jared and I we talked about a lot too. That's something he's currently battling at the moment. I don't want to get into any details, but he's really just prioritizing his health, his happiness before business. And I'm telling him, focus on that, do that, buddy,
Hmm.
because the business can go away. Like we can build new ones. Like that's not something I'm gonna, go crazy over. At the end of the day, it's most important that you take care of yourself and then
Yeah.
kind of go from there. Yeah,
Yeah. It's like the whole notion of work will always be there, but life won't. So it's so
exactly.
important to nurture yourself, like you said, and really to give that time that you need.
100%. Yeah, exactly. I love that phrase. Yeah.
Yeah. And this question might be tough for you because you've already given so much great advice that it might be hard for you to come up with something new. But I'm curious for anyone who's listening who is interested in building a tech startup, what advice would you have for them for getting started?
Mm. I feel like, oh man, there's so many things, and I've said so much already. I'm a
That's why I'm like,
talker. I'm
he's already
sorry.
shared so many golden nuggets, it might be
Yeah,
tough.
yeah. I blab too much, so
No,
I gotta
I
stop.
love
Yeah, I
it.
can't give away too many secrets, but no, I kid. But I would say probably if you want to get into tech, um, learn the basics before you kind of get into that. Educate yourself is the number one thing because
Mhm.
the world of tech is a lot. It's a lot of jargon. It's a lot of this and that things that you got to learn. So you want to start to just do that. The way I did it, honestly, was meeting people, going to networking events, listening to people. And then the second way I did it was YouTube. We live in
Hmm.
a beautiful digital era where you could just look up something real quick and then you basically have a whole crash course on it. And it's probably the most tech bro thing to say, but you can go on YouTube, you can go on online, and you can look these things up, and you can really just get learnings out of it. I was watching a lot of Valuetainment, which is a entrepreneur podcast. Well, it's changed now; it's now more political, but back in the day when it was an OG platform. Uh, Valuetainment. It's Patrick Bet-David. He sold PHP insurance years ago, and he built this channel basically for entrepreneurs where they could learn how to be an entrepreneur. It's really as simple as that. Number one channel for entrepreneurs is what they used to call it. So you could still find his old videos from like 2017, 2018, him talking about building a company from how to be a good CEO to the 10 reasons why you don't want to be an entrepreneur. and like
Mm,
just
yeah.
allowing yourself to really just feel immersed and know like, is this the path for me? So I would say those videos are relevant to anybody, not just tech, but anybody that wants to build a business. But if you want to get specifically into tech, just network. You know, LinkedIn's
Hmm.
there for a reason. Reach out to people, connect with people. You'll be surprised. A lot of people do want to help people, and they do want to, jump on calls and kind of give you their piece of wisdom and advice. I did a lot of that. I was able to do that and then just go to networking events, starting off in Boston when I was up here to when I moved to New Jersey. I was doing networking events in New Jersey, especially in New York City, of course,
Hmm.
all the way to even flying out to Hawaii back in September and
Yeah.
meeting a whole crew of people. And by the way, I want to give a quick plug to Hawaii because they have a huge tech hub over there that I didn't know about,
Ooh,
and it's starting to grow. And like anybody that wants to learn more about that, check it out because it's growing. It's up and coming right now.
good to know.
Yeah, yeah. So there's lots of opportunities online and networking events. I would say are the biggest thing that you can do to learn about tech.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And one of my favorite questions to ask our guests is what their favorite local businesses are to support. So I'd love to hear what yours are.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Maria over at Uvita Shop in Boston. Uvita Shop is one of my most favorite shops. She started it years ago. I think it was like back in 2020 when she started it, or maybe a little bit before that. She basically it's a shop where you can buy everything eco-friendly,
Ooh,
from toothpaste to scarves. Like she just has it all, and I love it. I know a bunch of businesses down in New Jersey. I'm trying to think of like other ones up here in Boston, but that's the number one that comes to mind. If I could think of like just being a townie from Stoughton, obviously going to like Town Spa Pizza. Everybody,
yes.
yeah,
Love a good bar pizza.
yeah, you can't go wrong. Can't go wrong. It's not so much a small business anymore because they are making a lot of money, obviously, but it's a local spot. There's only one location in the country, so I always plug them, and I used to literally be down the street from them, so you can never go wrong with pizza. So
That's dangerous.
I know, right? Tell me about it. Really bad, really bad. Definitely got my freshman 15 from that. Not
Not a bad way to get it though. If you're gonna have bar
yeah,
pizza, that's the
yeah.
ultimate way to do
Exactly, exactly.
it. Phil, this has been a really fun episode, and I've really appreciated having you come on the show to share everything that you've done with Ecopreneur throughout the years. And now I'd love to give you the opportunity to share with our listeners where they can find you online in case they'd like to connect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for having me again. You can find me on Instagram, like I mentioned, LinkedIn. So you can type in Philip Toussaint, I'll show up. Instagram, I'm Ecopreneur Phil. Facebook, you'll find me Philip Toussaint. You'll find me on X, same thing, Ecopreneur Phil. TikTok, pretty much the whole 9 yards. I'm pretty much everywhere. You can also find my website, philiptoussaint.com, where you can learn more about me as an entrepreneur, the really some of the people that I admire and quote. And yeah, I'm all over social media, so you'll find me.
Cool. And I will link to all those places in the show notes that our listeners can easily click through and connect from there. But thank
Love
you
it.
so much again for coming on today's show.
Always a pleasure, Ashley. Thank you again. Appreciate it.